G'day, welcome one and all to the next installment of Guvs Hero Reviews and Impressions. This time around we are having a look at the hero Lumi. Now Lumi is the Blue Hero of the Month for December 2023, and after this month of being featured she won't be available in the game until she appears in the Manor of Legends portal starting in September of 2024. Now it is worth saying that the odds do substantially drop off once they go into the Manor of Legends portal. The best chances of summoning for her are currently while she is the featured hero of the month, so just something to bear in mind. Now Lumi is a 5-star blue hero with the title of being the Permafrost Protector. As she is a hero of the month, she's not actually a part of any family at this stage in the game, and subsequently has no family bonus available to her. The name Lumi actually is Finnish for snow, apparently, and that's something that the artwork and her skill and everything plays off. So her artwork does show her being equipped with a freeze or snow blaster of some description, and also a snow-powered jetpack. Just here, the snowball in her left hand is a nice touch, sort of going with that snow thing a bit more, but does mean she's flying a jetpack without any hands on the controls, which is a little bit concerning. So she does seem rather chill about the likely impending crash situation, and yes, that was pun intended. In terms of her personal stats, Lumi comes in with 817 attack, 666 defense, and 1428 HP. So there is some skewing away from her defense stat towards her attack stat, but the health is pretty much the same. It's relatively average. Her charge speed set to 55, which is average. It does require 10 tiles to charge, or 5 ghosted tiles. Getting a 1 tile speed break, so down to 9 tiles, is quite easy to achieve. You can do it with +3 speed, which you can do with just a 3-star vanilla blue weapon. To do a double break, you do need to get +10, which, as you're probably aware, is not possible just off the weapons in the game at the moment. So the best speed blue weapons are the Ice Breath Saw or Regalizer Magnum, both of which give +9. However, you can actually achieve the double break if you go the +9 speed weapon and also pick up the 2% speed node off her Emblem Tree. So something just to bear in mind when you're doing that emblem path. So class-wise, Lumi is a member of the Recon class, which grants the chance to evade direct damage coming from special skills and provide 20% charge on each successful evasion. Recon perk is probably one of my favorite ones. It's essentially a standalone dodge that applies on top of the rolls for things like your weapons and family bonuses and so on and so forth. So it is a discrete dodge perk, so it does give an additional layer of that, but the bonus is really that 20% charge that you gain on successful evasion. In terms of the Emblem Tree, for me personally, I would do Lumi as a defensive tree. So I'd follow a defense path. So I'm just going to bring up Zuri here. She's a blank slate. So for me, I would be looking at doing the defense path, so we can go right to pick up that lovely speed node there. May as well grab the attack node, attack and defense and HP. Now I probably would personally stop at +18. I'd actually probably stop at +15, which is the last node where the evade perk or the recon perk comes into play. So yeah, that's how I would emblem Lumi. I'd follow a defense path, prioritizing attack as a secondary stat. There is an argument that can be made to go an attack route, seeing as she is a relatively attack-oriented special skill. I personally would go defense because I am more prioritizing her survivability to use the charge cut. So we're going to get to all of this in a little bit, but you can also go an attack route, which would be just as valid. So the attack route would look something like what I've done on Cooper. Here he is. So we've gone attack, speed node there at number 8, and then we've gone with attack. And as I said, I stopped mine at +15 because that's the last perk where there is the recon emblem nodes. Back over to Lumi, so diving into her special skill a little bit. So her skill is titled Sub-Zero Blaster, and at level 10 and 55 charge speed will deal 235% damage to the target and nearby enemies, reduce the charge of the target and nearby enemies by 35%, reduce the armor received by the target and nearby enemies by minus 75% for 3 turns, and on top of all of that, apply a shock ailment to the target and nearby enemies, which deals minus 224 HP whenever they receive a buff for 3 turns. And that shock ailment cannot be cleared, so it will always run the full 3 turns. So breaking that down a little bit, if we have a look, starting with the direct damage component, because that's often the easiest to compare, we will compare based on attack power per tile, which is a metric of their attack stat multiplied by the percentages listed in the special skill divided by the number of tiles to charge. So Lumi with 817 attack and 235% damage comes in with an attack power of 1920. Because she requires 10 tiles to charge, that's 192 APPT, attack power per tile. Having a look at some other blue DOA 3 or damage over area or area of effect 3 heroes. There are about 10 of them in the game at the moment, so Lumi is obviously the one we're looking at. She's coming in around the middle of the playing field. The best possible one at the moment is actually Torrent, the 5-star blue from Monster Hunter event. Some sneaky other ones, so Torrent comes in at 229, Banshee variant actually comes in at 226 attack power per tile, Logan variant is 218, Ghost, who's a very recent hero added to the game, 216, and then some lower down ones, we've got Lepus from Springtech, and that's 156, Shocker 150, and poor old basic Logan is 133. So overall, her damage output is in the middle of that playing field, coming in at number 6. It is worth noting that she is a substantial step down from number 3, 4, and 5, who are within 1 or 2 attack power points of each other. So that's Logan variant, Ghost, and Mayhem, who I didn't mention. So yeah, damage, not too shabby. It's about the middle of the tier. Even though she's got quite a high attack stat, it's that percentage which is a little bit lower. The other parts of her skills, so looking at the charge cut, it's probably, in my opinion, the most useful aspect of her skill, shaving 35% of the charge off the target and nearby enemies. Notably, this is a flat 35%. It isn't 35% of the charge they've gathered so far. It's just, if they're at 50%, it's minus 35, so they're down to 15% charge afterwards. As I have always said, charge control is probably the best effect that you can have on a hero. It's one of the most versatile effects that you can take into battle. So Lumi being able to knock 35% off 3 enemies is pretty beast, realistically. Next line is the armor, or the negative armor generation. So it is a big reduction, minus 75%. It is, I think it's the highest armor debuff in the game. But it is relatively limited, so it's good if there's an enemy hero who makes a lot of armor, like Sir Casimir, but it's neither here nor there in the skill. The final line is actually an interesting one. Not so much the shock ailment, that's fairly so-so, it appears every now and then, like on a number of heroes, but what's interesting is the fact that it is minus 224 HP. Per buff received. So normally the shock ailment's only minus 112 HP. So Lumi is actually double that health reduction for each buff that's received. So the other 2 things to note with the shock ailment is that it applies for each buff. So a hero like Xenia, who gives off 2 buffs, will wipe 448 HP off the affected ally heroes. But the other thing that's actually interesting is that the effect can't be cleared, which is not common with the shock ailment. So it will always run that full course of 3 turns. If we want to do a quick comparison, the best hero to probably compare Lumi to is actually Torrent. So I did mention Torrent a little bit earlier, so this is his card here. So Torrent is also an AoE 3 hero, dealing damage and charge control to the target and nearby. Both of them remove 35% charge. Both of them are average speed. Torrent is 11 tiles, but both of them can actually be double speed broken using a +9 weapon and an emblem node. The differing points between the two is that Torrent actually has a lot more damage output, so that 350% does make a big difference. It ends up being about 50% more damage than what Lumi does. The secondary skills, Lumi's got the shock ailment and armor debuff, while Torrent applies a 50% increase in DOT. neither of those really sway too much. They're both useful. The shock is probably the best of those secondary elements, but what sort of the other differentiating factor between them is their stats. So Torrent's stats are much more balanced. They're slightly towards that defense stat, which means he does tend to have better survival off his base stats than what Lumi does, because Lumi is more skewed towards that attack stat. So both of them are very good and very versatile supporting heroes with that charge cut. But if I had to choose between the two, I'd probably personally just pick Torrent, only by a little bit, and that's mainly because of that survivability, meaning he's more likely to last and use the charge control multiple times. But if we look at pretty much all of the other DOA 3 blue heroes, the only one that I'd probably consider leveling ahead of Lumi and Torrent is probably Ghost, and that's because she's a very good hero at the moment. So overall, I would say that Lumi is an extremely good hero. Best attribute is that charge control, and the high attack stat does mean that she can actually be brought along to War Machine teams and improve both the tile damage, but also control the special skill of the War Machine. But overall, I think her real spot that she's going to shine is on raid and war attack teams. So for Lumi's grading, I am giving her an A- for war and raid attack. The only reason she's not higher is because of that poor defense stat. She does lose a little bit of survivability. War Machines, I'm going to give her a B+, which is high for a hero which doesn't actually contribute to like defense down or elemental defense down and stuff. Eventing, I'd probably go a B. Because she is DOA 3 and she does charge control, which does help a lot with controlling those final waves. For normal defenses, so raid and war defense, I'd probably say about a B. The best position I see her in is the flank position, which allows her a little bit of protection behind a strong tank, and it allows her to charge somewhat in peace to be able to inflict that charge control, the charge cut, 1 or 2 or even 3 times from that slightly sheltered position. In terms of tournaments, so Bloody Battle, I'd give her a B+ on attack and a B- on defense. She does lose that armor line, so she does drop off a little bit on that front. Buff boosting, I'm going to bump her up to an A on defense and an A on attack and a B+ on defense, and that's because of that big shock ailment. So because she's dealing out a lot of damage and buff boosting is all about generating buffs, she does get a little bit of a notch up there. For charged attack, pretty much the same as her regular grading, so A- and a B for attack and defense. So she does get a little bit of an improvement, about 10 charge points, but it's not a huge improvement. So overall, in terms of her total grading, I would say that it comes out as a B+ for attack and a B grade for defense. So overall, very solid hero. Congratulations if you get her. In my opinion, worth leveling up for most situations. So that concludes the content for this review of Lumi. As always, this is just my personal opinion. I do love hearing your thoughts and feedback on these heroes, so if you do have any thoughts about it, please do jump down into the comments section, drop me a note. I love reading them, and I do try to reply to as many of those comments as I can. If you have found this video useful, as I said, drop a like, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, share the video around to your alliance mates and the people you play with, because chances are, if this kind of video is useful to you, it's also going to be useful to other people also. So thanks once again for tuning in and joining me for this review of Lumi. Good luck with everything and happy gaming. Cheers. Bye.